Hello, brothers and sisters. How are you doing? My name is Kevin, and I am an elder in Israel. And the question of the day is, what happens to children who don't take the same covenant as their parents? We'll discuss this and more. I do have a few announcements. So in September, in September, I will be taking a month-long fast. Don't worry, I plan on recording videos for the time I'm gone. I just won't be getting on to check comments, how many people have subscribed. Speaking of which, this week we've had 2 or 3 new subscribers. Let me go there and check. This is awesome. So looks like we've had 2 new subscribers, 3 more, 2 more. And I'm only aware of one of them. Where are you hiding? There we are. Trying to find who they are. Let's go here. Oh, I don't know if you guys have been watching the news. There was there's a meteorite named Apophis that was supposed to be coming our way and supposed to come by the earth in 2029. So it's supposed to be the closest one. It's going to be going between the earth and communication satellite. So it's going to be interesting to see who or what happens to our communications during that time. And according to Neil Tyson deGrasse, there is a small percent of a chance that it will get close enough to the Earth to where the gravity will affect it, to where it will return 7 years later. Now, what it'll do, I don't want to think about it. But the new subscriber that I know of, and I am thankful, is Michael or Chantel C. Thank you for joining me. I do appreciate it. It's really awesome seeing my little channel grow. It's kind of hard to believe that when I started this, doing these videos, that I had very few subscribers. In fact, let me see if I can find the exact numbers. So I started doing these videos. I can't really So this same time last year, I had 11 subscribers. 11. And since then, we've grown from 11 to 145 in just less than a year. I am so thankful to each one of you. It's been fun. So with that, let's get started with today's video. We are doing Alma chapter 53. Now, if you remember, last chapter, Ammon, the brother of Amalekite, takes over, and it doesn't look like he's doing as good of the job as Amalekite was at being king, because he got chased out of the land of Zarahemla pretty quick. But that's just me. I'm a non-military person. So, excuse me. So let's get started. So after the battle, Captain Moroni decided to set guards over the prisoners, and instead of like you see today where the prisoners just sit around watching TV, they have a little gym. No, they were out working. First, Captain Moroni had them bury not only the dead of the Lamanites, but also the dead of the Nephites. And while they were doing that, Captain Moroni went to Mulek, which was the town that the Lamanites had taken over, and started fortifying it. Now he gave this town command to Lehi. Now, if you remember, Lehi has been with Moroni since the very beginning. He's one of the commanders, and he's well known among the people, probably. And they're good friends, and I like what it says here too in verse 2. It says, "Now behold, this Lehi was a man who had been with Moroni in the more parts of all his battles, and he was a man like unto Moroni," meaning he was a righteous man who didn't delight in bloodshed, who just wanted freedom for his people. And they rejoiced in each other's safety, and they were beloved by each other, and also beloved by the people of Nephi. And that's great when the military commanders are respected by the people. Let's see, and now after the Lamanites that were prisoners had finished burying the dead of the Nephites and the Lamanites, they were marched to the lands of Bountiful and Tiancum by the orders of Moroni, and they started digging ditches around the land. More specifically, it says the city of Bountiful, not the Bountiful that's just 20 or 30 miles away from here. They don't have a ditch around them. It's a beautiful city, though. I've been there a couple times. Now, they get into describing what their fortification is like. It said that he caused that breastworks of timber should be on the inner part of the ditch, and that's where they cast up the dirt. It's hard for me to imagine what it looks like. I'm sure there's someone out there that can has a drawing or something of it, but I'm sure it looks pretty cool. And so these guys were doing hard labor. I mean, this is the old-time prison, not these new ones where they get away with stuff. Now that the Nephites had gained victory over the Amalekites, and they were fortifying all the cities, it says here in verse 6 that he was also building a kind of prison to hold all the prisoners. So I wonder if he made them build their own prison. That would have been something else. Let's see here. It says here in verse 7 that the Lamanites didn't attack for the rest of the year, so he spent time in preparing for war, preparing people, helping people get food. There was one town, maybe it was people of Mulek, that he spent time getting food for them and helping them to get over the event that took place. Now, do you remember the question I asked at the beginning? What happens when children don't take the same covenant as their parents? Now, we've seen what happened when in King Benjamin, when he had everyone take covenant, and everyone that was above the age of 8 took covenants to God to follow the commandments and stuff. Alma the younger and the sons of Mosiah, King Mosiah, who were too young to take that covenant, they didn't take that covenant, and they became rebellious. But I want to tell you about another group of young men who they didn't take the covenant of their parents, and they turned out to do great things and were men of God. And I'm talking about the people of Ammon. Now, if you remember, the people of Ammon did not take or took a covenant of pacifism. They had such love of their fellow human beings. They took a covenant of nonviolence. They didn't want to take weapons of war against their fellow beings and draw blood. And if you remember, they even took in one of the people who was from the king's servant from Ammon that he caused to kill the previous king. He fled to the people of Ammon. They took him in. And now that they're facing war, this has probably been the most war they've seen in a long time. They are contemplating forsaking their oath. Let's see, where is it? Here. Verse 11, it says, and because of their oath, which is not to grab weapons again, they had been kept from taking up arms against their brethren. For they had taken an oath that they never would shed blood more. And according to their oath, they would have perished. Yea, they would have suffered themselves to have fallen in the hands of their brethren, had it not been for the pity and exceeding love which Ammon and his brethren had for them. Says here, verse 13, but it came to pass that when they saw the danger and the many afflictions and tribulations which the Nephites bore, they were moved with compassion and were desirous to take up arms in the defense of their countries. Now this is very touching. They want to help to defend the people. Now Helaman is the one talking to the people of Alma, and he, in verse 15 it says, and Helaman feared lest by so doing they should lose their souls. Because remember, Helaman's a righteous man as well. Therefore, all those who had entered into the covenant were compelled to behold their brethren wade through their afflictions in their dangerous circumstances at that time. Now, here comes the children, the sons of the people of Ammon. Said, but behold, it came to pass that they had many sons who had not entered into the covenant, that they would not take the weapons of war to defend themselves against their enemies. Therefore they did assemble themselves together, as many were able to take up arms, and they called themselves Nephites. Now, they took a new covenant upon them. Here in verse 17, they entered into a covenant to fight for the liberty of the Nephites, yea, to protect the land unto the laying down of their lives. Yea, even they coveted that they never would give up their liberty, but they would fight in all cases to protect the Nephites and protect the Nephites and themselves from bondage. Now there were 2,000 of these young men who entered into this contract. So where King Mosiah, when the people took covenant unto them to follow Christ, their children who didn't take the covenant, some of them became rebellious. We don't know about all of them. We just know that there were some that became rebellious and didn't believe in the things that King Benjamin had taught. Now, we are seeing the opposite. We are seeing a people who took a covenant of nonviolence, that they wouldn't take up weapons. Their sons, which were probably too young at that time to take such a covenant, they are taking a new covenant, one of defense. And this is how the Nephites were from the beginning. It's all about self-defense. I don't think there's a single time, well, probably later when the Nephites fall away, they'll probably attack the Lamanites. But at this time, I don't think there's been a single instance in where the Nephites had attacked the Lamanites. It's always been self-defense. Now, these young men, there was a condition that they were to do this. And it says, they would that, in verse 19, they would that Helaman should be their leader. They knew who they wanted. Now, let's see here. Okay. Now, I'm going to read verses 20 and 21 because these are describe what kind of, I'm going to call them men. What kind of men these 2,000 warriors are. And this is beautiful. And I think every young man should try to live this same way. Starting in verse 20, it says, and they were all young men, and they were exceedingly valiant for courage. and also for strength and activity. For behold, this was not all. They were men who were true at all times in whatsoever thing they were entrusted. They were men of truth and soberness, for they had been taught to keep the commandments of God and to walk uprightly before him. So these were men of God, and that their character was impeachable. You couldn't, they kept the commandments of God. They were taught that way. And now, verse 22, and it came to pass that Helaman did march at the head of his 2,000 stripling soldiers to the support of the people in the land on the south by the West Sea. Now you notice that one word, stripling. Well, what does that word mean? It means a young man. It's an old word. Whippersnapper is one of them. They could have been like teenagers to young adult men. It's a youth. So this is the 2,000 stripling warriors is one of my favorites. These young men are truly valiant. They're not afraid to defend themselves. They're not afraid to defend their people. And I bet you every single one of them would have made an amazing missionaries as well. So, all right, with that, we will call this chapter complete. This is the end of the 28th year of the reign of Judges. And we are getting closer and closer to 3rd Nephi. 3rd Nephi is my favorite book. There's so much that we learn. This is where Christ comes and spends time with us. This will be done during my tech fast, so I'll make sure to record everything about that. So, my brothers and sisters, I hope that you have a wonderful evening. I hope that you take time, say your prayers, and have a great Sabbath day. I hope you find time to go to church. I think we're in the priesthood in Relief Society tomorrow, but we'll see. You guys take care, and we'll talk to you then. Remember, I love you, and I pray for you, and thank you for joining my channel. We'll see you guys again Monday. Enjoy yourselves.